this is Bevy coming to you from Hamtopia. It is Monday the 13th of July, and we are carrying on today with the Reaper and the Scribe, chapter 67. Far away from what was going on in the living room of Victoria Mallock, Paul and Dixie opened their eyes on the last day of their break in that wonderful Paradise Island. They were back on the beach, and Paul Johnson said, "I have just had the weirdest dream." "No, you haven't," replied Dixie. "What do you mean?" "We were there, together. We swam down with mermaids. We met the people of the sea and made the most passionate love on the biggest waterbed I've ever seen," said Dixie. "How did we get back here?" Dixie pointed at the mermaids sitting on their rock. "Whoa!" was Paul's simple reply. "What now?" he continued. "A tingling down our spine and a sudden sharp movement, I suppose, and then we'll be back in the office." "Well, let's get some clothes on. I don't want to be responsible for making Tamara's eyebrow dance." Dixie laughed and said, "You should be honored that the list maker finds you attractive. I know I would be." "Do you mind? You are talking to a nearly married man, and you, my girl, are a nearly married woman." "I know. I'm just saying." "Yes, well, let's get dressed," he interrupted, slightly pink around the cheeks. The couple dressed and had some lunch, then were whisked back to the office. "For an accountancy firm, your mathematics are rubbish. I make that 2 days, not 3, said Johnson as they arrived back. John Smith laughed and said, "The game is afoot, old boy." "What do you mean?" asked Dixie. "Crawshaw has made his move on Atkinson. He tried to make contact with Gavin last night." "I see," said Paul Johnson. At this point, Atkinson joined Smith, Tamara, Dixie, and Paul. "Did you have a nice rest and take care of that small amount of business, boys and girls?" "The being grows within me as we speak, sire." "What grows within you?" asked Johnson. "All in due course. We now have to begin. John, at 8 tonight, I want you inside the realm of death. Tomorrow, I want him to have at least 3 nights' worth of lists. Dewhurst is on that as we speak. Sarah needs to be relieved, so, Dixie, off you pop. That's a good girl." Dixie disappeared, and Sarah appeared in her place, her sword still dripping with blood. She quickly changed back into normal mode. "We are all here now," said Atkinson. "What about Paladin?" asked Smith. "He is liaising with nature over the transference of the souls," informed Atkinson. "It is time for your investigation to begin, Paul. You might want to start with the superintendent, who is on the case." "Do you know who it is?" asked Johnson. "Mallock, I believe." "Ah, Vic. I know her quite well. If she's in a good mood, I will be able to work with her," said Johnson. "Right. Off you go, then," said Atkinson. Paul Johnson left the Reaper's office and made for his own. Okay, so here is the plan. Hanging on Atkinson's every word was Smith, Tamara, and Sarah, as he laid out in fine detail the plan of action. After a few minutes, everyone in that room knew their role. Only Sarah brought a question to the fore. "Are you sure Paul Johnson will survive this?" "What? Survive being killed, you mean?" "How many times have you killed me, Sarah?" asked Atkinson. "I think this is a bit different," said Smith. "There are risks, yes. A lot of things could go wrong. But at the end of the day, this is the only way we can get the souls that we need out of Crawshaw. So this is the way it will be." With those words, the meeting was over. They all knew the parts they each had to play, and most of them knew the risks. A multitude of rats gathered around the old building whose only inhabitant was one chief inspector and the army of tortured souls within him. He was powerless and barely alive. The awful police detective that he had been paled into insignificance as to what he had become. The rats milled about him as he prepared for battle with the offspring of the foe who had imprisoned the souls he held within him. He had the mind link to get him into the most sacred of places, the other realm, a realm in which he could undo creation itself, as he knew the wretched body he possessed could not sustain him much longer. He needed an immortal, like the female he used earlier. That was his first goal. The one he had the mind link with was, for some strange reason, showing no resistance whatsoever. Dewhurst had sent the 3 lists to Tamara, who in turn had written them down, cross-referenced them, and passed them on to Smith. Smith and Atkinson looked at each other as the time grew close for Smith to enter the realm of death, knowing that he would be there for some time. "You understand that once you go in there, my administration will begin, and for the first time in existence, there will be 2 Reapers at the same time." "I understand, and I will await your call," said Smith, as he entered the realm of death through the great door behind his desk. As soon as the door closed behind Smith, Atkinson felt a jolt of power pass through his body and a quickening of his senses. He looked at Tamara and said, "Oh, yes, I am back." "No, you're not. It is only for a few days, and you are a full day early," advised Tamara. "My hand was played for me when Crawshaw made contact. I had to pull things forward. The fact is that we are ready. I just hope nature is." Within Mother Nature's realm, a meeting was taking place between Paladin and herself. Again, it was held at the gathering place for the centaurs. The most knowledgeable ones were in attendance. "The Legion of the dark realm is concealed within the human being named Crawshaw. While this is the case, things are going to plan. Unfortunately, most plans don't run the course they are supposed to. We must assume that this will be no different, so a backup must be in place from the start. "Why doesn't Atkinson just kill Crawshaw?" was the murmured answer from many. "Because Crawshaw's time isn't up. We don't want a situation where the all-powerful Reapers begin killing at will." "But just one doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, surely," answered the Centaur's leader. 1, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000? Where would you draw the line? No. The Reapers work within tight tolerances, and that is the end of it. "Mother, what is your plan?" asked Paladin. One of the Centaurs was about to speak. Paladin raised his hand very gently, and the Centaur's voice was silenced. "I need a direct link between here and the realm of death, and Atkinson has provided it by initializing 2 Reapers. Atkinson will engage the dark souls on the plane of existence. Smith will accept them into the realm of death, but instead of cutting their cords and letting them go back, he will transfer them to me. Here is where you come into the plan, Paladin. There is no direct link between the realm of death and the realm of nature. The two must be kept apart in the same way that matter and antimatter must be. Smith will send the souls via you. You are the common link between us," she explained. "I see. Will it be the portal in the woods?" "Yes, it will. The very place from where they emerged. They will be purified through you, and then come from you as not a soul per se, but as energy, the energy source that will be used to help rebuild the planet, whilst you take your place as Atkinson's apprentice and help me heal the world. All we can do now is wait for Atkinson and his warriors to do their part." "You won't be able to use this energy straight away. Where will you store it?" asked Paladin. "I will store it in the sap of trees, in the wings of birds. I will store it in magical places humankind has long since forgotten. Within my realm, there are many vaults where power can be stored. It will be the Earth's bank account, and the first withdrawal, now that those weapons of mass destruction have been eradicated, will be for the ozone and its regeneration. Is everything in place for you to start receiving this energy? Nature is ready for the transfer." "Then I shall go to Atkinson and pass to him your message of hope," said Paladin, as he left the realm of nature and re-entered the plane of existence. Once there, he called for Julie Antrim. The whooshing sound of a large pair of flapping wings and the whinny of a unicorn resonated as through the treetops flew Julie Antrim. She landed and came to a stop beside her master. I think a winged unicorn may be a bit out of place here. Perhaps something a little less conspicuous, advised Paladin. Julie Antrim looked at Paladin and said, "How's this?" She turned into an E-type Jaguar. "It is beautiful, Julie Antrim, but perhaps something a little easier on the planet. After all, we are here to try and save it." Julie Antrim instantly turned into a sit-up-and-beg bicycle. "What about this?" "I don't think so. I need to fit in, especially with the young people." This time, Julie Antrim morphed into a skateboard with a pair of high-top canvas boots fixed to the deck. "Hop into them." With a look of reluctance, Paladin placed his feet into the boots, and as soon as he did, the skateboard propelled him forward, leaving his hair trailing behind and the wind in his face. Paladin's clothes changed as he stood on the board. He now wore a very baggy black T-shirt with the logo of the rock band, a day to remember, across his chest, a pair of baggy black jeans, and a black baseball cap. A pair of glasses finished off the ensemble. He looked just like 1,000 other kids around 18 years old, which was how he wanted to be. Also on the plane of existence, Paul Johnson was in the car park of police headquarters, waiting for Detective Superintendent Victoria Malik to leave the building. After about 40 minutes, she came out through the double doors. "Hello, Victoria," he said. "Hello, Paul. You've chosen a bad time, I'm afraid. I'm quite busy." "This won't take long," answered Johnson. "What won't?" "I think we both know, Victoria. We are both looking for the same man, and I can lead you straight to him." "You have my undivided attention. I was going to get someone to take me where I'm going. That someone is now you. I was very disappointed when I heard you had left us. You had a glowing future in front of you." Paul Johnson just smiled as he held the door open for one of his ex-bosses to get into the car. "Where to?" he asked. "I am on my way to Park Road. Your old stomping ground, Paul." "Indeed it was," he replied. While getting in the car, Malik said, "Fire away." "Your Chief Inspector Crawshaw has been a naughty boy." "Oh, yes. Why do you say that?" "Well, for one thing, he was the last person to see our secretary." "Yes, but that doesn't mean anything." "I don't have time for this, Victoria. Do you need me to tell you what I know about this man or not? For instance, do you want me to tell you why you are chasing him? That I know about the massacre at my old station and the tramp you search for as we speak, and why Crawshaw is at the middle of your bridge fiasco. Do I need to go on, or can we drop the pretense?" he said. "How on earth could you possibly know all that?" gaped Victoria. "As you say, I had quite a future in front of me. I was a good cop." "Okay, pull over there," said Victoria, pointing at an available car parking space on the other side of the road. The car pulled up outside a small cafe. "Let us tell each other our secrets over a coffee," she continued. They both exited the car and went inside the cafe. Passing the counter, Victoria turned to Paul and said, "Strong and milky, please." She then took a seat in the corner by the window. Paul Johnson ordered the beverages and carried them to the table. "Crawshaw seems to be part of some kind of suicide cult," said Victoria, opening the conversation after she had sipped the bubbles off the top of her coffee. Johnson pointed to the top of his lip, indicating that she had a bubble mustache. A simple lick with the tip of her tongue across her lip eradicated that particular problem. "Suicide cult?" said Johnson. "Yes, I saw the effect he had at the police station. I was there, and only just escaped, thanks to Sergeant Simpson bundling me into a police car and Officer Harper getting me away from there." "You could not have been saved by two better police officers." "I know. I owe them my life. Anyway, when I arrived at the bridge carnage, hundreds of people were dead in the water. As I looked over the bridge, I saw a vagrant walking away, and somehow I knew that vagrant was Crawshaw. What I didn't know was why now. He only received this position at Park Road a short time back. He had one or two, let's say, disciplinary issues that would make you think he would keep a low profile, not turn into this." "His mind is going. Has he said anything to anyone about the company I now work for?" asked Johnson. "Atkinson, Dewhurst, and Smith," said Malik. "Dixie told us he had evidence that our company was murdering people, and this evidence placed our Mr. Atkinson at the scene of every unsolved murder that had taken place here over the last 50 years. According to him, the reason our Mr. Atkinson had escaped conviction was because he was indeed the Grim Reaper." "Good Lord! He thinks he's chasing the Grim Reaper? That is ludicrous! We have to find this man. By the way, who's Dixie?" "Come on, Victoria. Sharpen up. She is the missing secretary. She said he has all this damning information in a file, locked away in a drawer." Victoria shook her head in disbelief and said, "That is our next move, then. I shall check his files as soon as I get there. Imagine if any of this got out to the press." "May I come with you? This does involve me, as I am head of security at Atkinson's." "You are a civilian, and you know quite well you can't," advised Victoria. "What if I could tell you his exact whereabouts and where he will be tomorrow at precisely 10 p.m.? "How could you possibly know that?" How could I possibly know any of the other things we have discussed? Oh, what the hell! Come on, then. Let's check this damning piece of evidence. They drank their coffees, exited the cafe, and got back into Johnson's car. Upon arriving at Park Road Police Station, they found it was still cordoned off, with police guarding the building. A uniformed officer opened the gate, and Detective Superintendent Malik showed him her warrant card. Johnson parked in the car park, and they both exited and made their way inside. The building was quite empty, apart from a couple of forensic officers taking the last of their samples. Johnson looked around the rebuilt police station and could not believe the damage that one man caused as he followed Malik up to his old office. Once inside, she quickly went to the desk and started opening the drawers. "The bottom one will be locked," said Johnson. "So is this top one. It has a padlock on it." "May I see?" "I don't think that is locked. It's just stuck, as I recall," said Johnson, knowing that the lock didn't exist when he used to sit behind that particular piece of mundane office furniture. He stood in between the desk and his companion, shielding the view of the lock from Victoria. Upon placing his right hand around it, he gently squeezed, and the lock crumpled in his hand. "See? Damn thing's broken, and it's finally given up the ghost." Moving to one side, he let Malik open the drawer. There was a stack of pornographic magazines, a set of photographs of men and women in compromising positions, and underneath a brown folder marked Atkinson, Dewhurst, and Smith. She took it out and opened it. The first thing to come out was a photograph of Dixie. She was naked and tied to a tree. Her head was hanging down, and you couldn't tell if she was dead or alive. Then she saw the damning evidence that Crawshaw had in his possession that would elevate his police career even further. A set of drawings that looked like the doodlings of a 6-year-old portraying the Grim Reaper, swishing his scythe, cutting people in half, with the scribbled words, "This is Atkinson," written on the back of each drawing. There was a separate piece of paper which claimed Atkinson was thousands of years old, and he changed every 25 years into either Dewhurst or Smith. The document was written in red crayon. Detective Superintendent Malik closed the file and said, "Chief Inspector Crawshaw is completely deranged. Take a look at this evidence." She sat back in the chair and offered Johnson the drawings. "Where do we go from here?" said Johnson, desperately trying not to laugh. "You said you knew where he would be tomorrow?" "Yes, I do. Be ready with your officers tomorrow at 21:30 hours. As soon as he arrives at the place in question, I will ring you. Then you can move in and arrest him." "I don't understand why you just can't tell me now," said Malik. Because I don't want anything to go wrong. Just be ready when I call. Now you can see that accountants are not as boring as you might have thought. Just look at what they get up to in their spare time, said Johnson, with a smile on his face as he gave Victoria Mallock a wink. As Johnson was leaving, his old boss smiled and said, "And what do I do with this folder of rubbish?" "Keep it for evidence. At least we now know where Dixie is." "We know she's tied to a tree, but that wooded area is vast. And by the looks of things, we are already too late," she continued. "Late or not, she has to be found." "May I make a suggestion?" he offered. "Please, do." "I suggest removing a few officers from the bridge area and having them perform an initial search of the wooded area. Then, after Crawshaw is apprehended, put all of your available officers on it." "Okay, I can afford 4 or 5. Would you like a lift back?" asked Johnson. "No, thanks. I need to chat with the 2 guys downstairs. On a different subject, I assume you know police officer Linda Harper. Do you know her well?" "I know she's a good cop. A friend of mine works with her brother." "Why? Is she CID material?" "My old detective sergeant used to think so. She was a friend of D.S. Donna Lambert." "I wonder what made her think that way. It'd be nice to know." "Donna told me on several occasions that she would have made a brilliant detective, but said there was something holding her back. However, she never told me what it was that indeed held her back." "Could it be her sexual orientation?" Johnson looked puzzled for a moment, then said, "I sincerely hope not. But I suppose she may have thought that she had no chance of promotion, so there was no point in applying. So, apart from her possible sexuality, do you think she would make a good detective? Victoria, you more than anyone should know that being a lesbian doesn't stop a person from getting where they want to go in life. I would have taken her on here as a detective any day of the week." Mallock looked shocked and said, "What do you mean, I should know?" "As you said yourself, I was a very good cop." Johnson smiled again, then left the office. Closing the door behind him, he wondered if Tamara had a spare photograph of his beloved tied to the tree when Dixie's voice rang out in his head. "Naughty boy!" He smiled again and made his way back to the car, then on to his office. Outside the offices of Atkinson, Dewhurst, and Smith, a young man did a kickflip with his skateboard, and then placing it under his arm, he entered the building. "A good day, Mr. Paladin. I shall announce your arrival," said Mr. Braithwaite. "Just call me Pal, dude," said Paladin, getting into the spirit of his new look. When he entered Atkinson's office, the head of the company said, "What are you wearing?" "This was Julie Antrium's idea," said Paladin. "Do I take it that Julie Antrim is under your arm at the moment." "I am indeed," said a sweet voice emanating from the board. Atkinson smiled and said, "You don't look as regal as you sound, my dear." "We're like disguised, dude," said Paladin. "You're disguised as a cliched road surfer," observed Atkinson. Paladin just smiled and said, "It'll keep me invisible for a while." "Do I take it from this disguise that nature and yourself are ready to begin?" "We are indeed." "Excellent. I will gather my troops," said Atkinson, his ancient adrenaline beginning to kick in. The building that Crawshaw inhabited now housed the real army he needed. This army of rats could move without detection and be in place in minutes within its subterranean world. Thousands of rats lay before him, and thousands of damned souls within him. The beast knew his true power was while he was Legion. He also realized, however, that being Legion offered the quickest solution for Atkinson to dispatch him. He sat looking at his followers, pondering the decision, but patience was not his virtue, and for now, Legion would continue. Crawshaw now transfixed his power of thought upon the one they call Sentinal. Having sacrificed some of his minions to find the Sentinel's rough whereabouts, he now had an exact position, and that meant that he could get deep into the legendary being's mind. He lifted his hand and pointed forward. From the dark, damp, writhing abundance of rats, a mischief of around 50 of them came forward. Again, Crawshaw lifted his hand and pointed. The screech of many tortured souls echoed across the room as each of the 50 rats accepted its new consciousness. Each one then stood up upon its hind legs and awaited orders. Crawshaw telepathically passed the rats their instructions as he guided them through his thoughts to the very room where Gavin Jackson lay. Dewhurst, this time accompanied by Dixie, stood guard over the Sentinel. The rats, now altered to quadruple their original size, materialized in front of them, but again were still not powerful enough to cause any damage upon the Sentinel's guards. Crawshaw was losing souls and not inflicting damage at all. The souls, dispatched into the other realm, went straight to Smith, who was waiting in the realm of death. 50 souls were tied off to wait for transference, and 50 rats returned to the wild. That was the specification of Mother Nature at the outset of her original meeting with Atkinson. Atkinson and Sarah joined Dixie and Dewhurst. "What was that?" mused Atkinson. "A mere Bit of mischief? Nothing more, said Dewhurst. So he's going to use rats, is he? It makes sense. They are readily available and easy to dominate, answered Dewhurst. As a pack of wild rats is not loyal, that could be to our advantage. The only thing is, it is clear he intends to separate the souls individually, observed Atkinson. They will be easy to find. The ones that attacked us were 4 feet tall, said Dixie. Unfortunately, on the plane of existence, they will be normal-sized rats, so will be quite difficult to find, said Dewhurst. Is this the right way, Atkinson? asked Sarah. What do you mean? Gavin is lying here in a coma because Crawshaw might use him to get to us. It would appear that it doesn't matter, as he is sending mercenaries to kill him. If you ask me, he doesn't want to use Gavin to get to you. He wants him out of the way so he cannot protect you. Bring him out of his coma. That way he has a fighting chance against Crawshaw's minions, and he can help you. It also frees Dixie and me for the upcoming battle, said Dewhurst. So be it, agreed Atkinson. Atkinson walked over to the table where Gavin Jackson lay and put his hand upon the Sentinel's brow. Jackson instantly changed into warrior mode and sat up, much to Sarah's delight. Has there been enough time? Asked Atkinson. Yes. As soon as I detected Crawshaw's mind trace, I locked onto it. I know now the very building where he hides, said the Sentinel. Good. The plan worked, said Atkinson. The plan? Said Sarah. Yes. Crawshaw needed information. I knew he would go for one of you because of what he would have learned from joining with Dixie. I also knew that because of the human that the beast had possessed, it would not be a female he went after. I needed it to be the strongest of my warriors. But Sarah, you are female, so next in line was Gavin. The coma made it easier for Crawshaw to connect to him, and that was precisely the route he took. Welcome back, Gavin, said Atkinson, placing his arm around Gavin Jackson's shoulders. We know where he will be, and we know what his army is. The Reaper, Mother Nature, and Paladin are ready. We are ready, and at 2200 hours on the morrow, we will attack this unworldly adversary and put an end to the Dark Realm forever.